All right, what's up, guys? Welcome to episode 112 of Convos on the Pedicab. I'm here with Jon Gordon. He is the head of business development at Crowd Health. Crowd Health is what is it?
We're an affordable alternative to health insurance using healthcare crowdfunding and Bitcoin to help people access and pay for medical care in a totally new parallel way to our broken system.
Very interesting, and I'm really excited to have you. Before we get started, though, we got to give a big shout out to our sponsor. This episode is brought to you by PlebLab. PlebLab is an Austin, Texas-based Bitcoin and media company that allows individuals and small businesses to adopt Bitcoin and utilize it in their everyday lives. They also have a media outlet where they host podcasts, produce news, and help organize the appearance of prominent speakers in the Bitcoin community here in Austin. Remember, guys, the best way to preserve your purchasing power and protect yourself from currency debasement is to own sound money, and the best way to unapologetically express your true self is to have permissionless and censorship-resistant money at your disposal that cannot be confiscated or frozen by a corrupt bank or government. So check out PlebLab if you would like to learn more about Bitcoin and protecting your personal as well as your financial sovereignty, guys. All right, Jon, I'm so happy to have you.
Thanks so much for having me, Alex. This is super fun.
Yeah, I'm excited, dude. Like, our healthcare system, it is a mess, and it kind of feels as though through messaging, via the media, via big tech platforms, via family, that, you know, it's really important to have actual government or corporate healthcare, and people literally choose their careers or their jobs or base their entire livelihoods and sacrifice so much time and happiness and put aside goals that will make them fulfilled just so that they don't go bankrupt seeing a doctor. And that's an inherently messed up way to have to go through life.
Yeah, absolutely. And it wasn't always meant to be this way. It was really happenstance. You had wage freezes during World War II, and companies couldn't increase their wages, so they started offering health insurance as a benefit for their employees. And now we see half of the country, over 160 million people, getting health insurance from their employer, and people making those decisions and really stifling entrepreneurship and innovation because, exactly as you said, people are stuck to their jobs because they feel they need health insurance. Well, you don't need insurance.
Wait, they froze wages in World War II?
Oh, yeah.
Can you tell me more about that? Because that's pretty interesting. Like, I had no idea about that.
Yeah, you know, with a lot of the inflation that was going on and going to fight the war, they had to set really rationing a lot of parts of the economy. So that included wage freezes in
I know you had to ration
controls.
Food and you had to ration gas, and there was stuff like that.
Yeah, labor as well. So labor being another input of business was another piece of that. So you saw over time then the government encroaching more and more into healthcare with Medicare and Medicaid launching in the 60s and 70s and so on, where now you've got a third of the country get on Medicare, insurance for the elderly over 65 and disabled, and Medicaid for low-income individuals.
So you work at a healthcare company, a healthcare company, for lack of a better word. Can you explain what Medicare and Medicaid is? Because I hear that word thrown around all the time, and I could never really explain or understand what any of that means. Especially you have people like Bernie Sanders, and you have all that. You have these like progressive socialists literally running campaigns on Medicare for all. And every time I try to have a conversation with someone about that, I can't, because I don't really even know what Medicare and Medicaid means and why I need it, or why anybody would need it, or how that's even sold to people.
Yeah, so we could go for hours and hours on this, but essentially, the way health insurance works is that they collect premiums, right? Premiums each month to pool the financial and health risk of the population that they're covering. And then they pay out claims to providers, right? So doctors and hospitals. So you can envision it almost like a triangle. You have the consumer of healthcare, us, the individual. You have the payer for healthcare now, insurance, and the provider. And what you need to understand about insurance side and who pays for healthcare has significant impacts on delivery and really the incentive structure of the whole industry. So for Medicare, it's for the elderly and disabled, right? So for over 65, now the government becomes the payer. For Medicaid, low income, it's organized at the state level. So each state also has different regulation.
Okay, because if you don't have a job and you've retired, now you don't have health care anymore because your employer is not paying for your health care. And you're most at risk to having to need healthcare. And because you're at risk, the company will charge you a higher premium. And if you're on Medicare and Medicaid, your rates are fixed for paying for these healthcare costs, and that's how they sell it.
Yep. So the government sets the rate that they pay providers for the various services or drugs or labs, all the different healthcare services that you're getting.
And you could be on Medicaid. Sorry if I'm interrupting.
Yeah, go
You could
ahead.
be on Medicaid if you're like just sick and young too, right?
Yeah. It depends on where you're at in relation to the federal poverty level, and it differs by state. So about 37 states have actually expanded Medicaid coverage so that even if you're making a bit more, you can still qualify for Medicaid. And I actually worked at a large insurance plan before where we were covering about 700,000 lives across Illinois, New Mexico, and Texas, and kind of seeing from the inside what that looks like on the payer side. And what's interesting is actually the commercial side. So employers are paying 250% more for the same exact service than the government is paying providers. So if then the government's paying on Medicare and Medicaid rates. So what ends up happening is employers are actually footing the bill, and those hospitals and health systems that have also consolidated now. You've seen a lot of consolidation in the industry, and I think there's a huge theme. If Bitcoin is decentralization, what we see in the current healthcare industry is consolidation, centralization, and the ultimate incentive is for prices and premiums to go up. Why? Because instituted with Obamacare and the Affordable Care Act about a decade ago, insurance companies' profits are capped. So for every $100 they bring in premiums, they have to spend $85 on medical care. It's called the medical loss ratio.
Well, that doesn't sound bad.
So it doesn't sound bad until, and it was put in with, trying to say, okay, we want to limit the profits here. But now if they bringing in, let's give an example, $1,000 worth of premiums, they have to spend $850. So that's $150 profit. So now the only way for their bottom line to grow, for that $150 to grow to $165, their premiums that they collect need to be $1,100. So you see how the incentive is for price premiums
so
to go
basically
up.
The insurance companies have to pay 85% of their premiums to helping people.
Correct.
And so if I'm an insurance company, I'm just going to continue to raise my premium. So, but what happens if they don't do that? Then they just pocket the money and then you don't get any medical care at all.
And there's a whole process with pre-authorizations and claims denials. And I think the friction in the industry and people interacting where you have this third party that's telling the doctors what they can and can't do from a procedural, from a testing, from a lab perspective. So now the physicians' hands are also tied because they're the ones who are providing the care, but they need to know, is this going to be paid for by the insurance company, depending on the rules that they set in motion. So, and it's difficult, right, for people to access and pay for care. And you've got 30 million uninsured Americans in this country, another 15 million that are going onto the exchanges, these state-run marketplaces, to go and get insurance. Yeah. So hopefully by the end of this conversation, you'll want to ditch your traditional health insurance and understand that there is an alternative to that.
So right now, as it stands with what I'm paying, I'm actually paying less money than I would be to use Crowd Health.
Are you getting because of subsidies or
just because of my job and because of Pedicab, just because of everything what I make, I actually am able to qualify because of what I make. I would be, at least last year I paid like $80 a month or something in health insurance to have like a really good
what was the plan or how it must have been subsidized somehow because on average Americans are paying
it's an Obamacare subsidy.
So it's subsidized.
I always get it through the marketplace, and this is the most I ever paid was like $80 a month.
Yeah,
because I made more money in 2021 than I ever did, right? So it was like $80 a month. But.
So those are the insurance marketplace. It opens up tomorrow, actually. So open enrollment is November 1st to January 15th when individuals can make those annual enrollments.
You're like so my bad if I'm interrupting.
No, you're good.
Being on the phone with these people is like the worst. It's like I dread it every single year. I'm on the phone with them for like an hour, having to pick a plan, having to tell them what I think I'm gonna make, not being 100% sure if it's like the accurate, like how accurate the number is gonna be, if I'm gonna be off by like 1,000, if I'm gonna be off by a few hundred, because I don't know what happens until the end of December when I get all my stuff from my Venmo and all the digital payments and my W-2s for all the jobs I have, right? And like being on the phone with these people it's just a stressful. It's just a stressful pain in the ass that I dread every year, and I have to like meditate or like smoke some weed or do something before I even or do yoga or like go work out or do something before I even talk to them. And it's every time I try to pick a health plan, it's almost an entire day wasted trying to do that. And then it's also one of those things where like, what happens if like you start look, I'm starting to get a little bit more visibility. I'm getting the sponsorship from Pleb Lab. There are going to be other companies that will start sponsoring me because I'm putting out really good content.
Absolutely. And we've chatted with Kyle and Pleb Lab as well, because I think the crowd health vision and really solution for individuals and gig workers like yourself and pedicabbers out there, you're hustling for yourself. You're not at a traditional company who's going to be paying for this. Now, here are the tools that you need to access and pay for healthcare and a direct-to-consumer experience that you haven't had, which is in the traditional system, which is very much built business to business, right? Now with Crowd Health, you have a care advocate who will help you navigate your healthcare journey, and you can go to any doctor you want. You don't have a network. In your Blue Cross plan, you have a certain number of docs that you can go to, right?
And then I also have to figure out when they're going to see patients. And some of these doctors, they're backed up forever. Like I haven't even had a checkup or gone to the dentist in like over a year. You know what I mean? Like just because I'm like, I have so much to do, so much going on. I have to like go online, go search my available network. I have to actually figure out if you cover me, when I can see you. And it just becomes like this huge process that I don't have the time to do because I'm doing a bazillion things at once. And you know, if I can just literally say doctor near me, go to a doctor, get the bill and say, hey guys, my checkup was $250. Can y'all fund this?
Yeah.
And it's just easy. And then
it's simple, cash pay. And that's really the value for value exchange. So when you cut out insurance as the middleman, you can go directly to a provider and say, what's your price? It's a federal statute that you can get a fair price for a healthcare service in this country, but prices are not transparent, right? It's hard to go and then as an individual. So with Crowd Health, we'll actually do a lot of those services for you and help you navigate, negotiate a better price. And we have a lot of stories of how we've really helped members and take that off your plate.
So how does that work? So because if I'm going to ditch this Obamacare thing that I'm luckily able to still get for at least this year, right? Like in 23, what do I like? What would happen if I say, man, I'm done with this. I'm using Crowd Health.
Yeah. So don't sign up for your Obamacare plan.
Right.
You'll go to joincrowdhealth.com and sign up. And if you use the promo code HODL, HODL, first 6 months, $99 a month.
All right.
Traditionally, how it works at Crowd Health is that you're paying $175 a month for anyone up to 54. 54 to 65, you're paying $325 a month. For a family, $695 a month. How does that work? 30 per person goes to Crowd Health. So out of that 175, 30 is our revenue, the subscription fee to get access to all the services that we're providing. The other 145 you put into your crowdfund account. It's an account in your name. It's your money. While you're in Crowd Health, you're actually using that to help crowdfund other people's health expenses.
So I'm using that 140 that's already in my account to fund people's expenses.
Exactly. And now if you need to go to the doctor, let's give an example. Recently we had a member who had a boating accident.
Okay.
And unfortunately there were some fingers severed, and we were working very closely with our Crowd Health care advocate Jasmine to navigate this challenge. So they go to the ER and the bill was $18,000 for that whole health event to take care of this member.
All right.
We actually negotiated that down to $6,000. The member is responsible to pay the first $500 of the health event. So of the remaining $5,500, we go out to 100 members and say, are you willing to contribute $55 to this person's emergency visit in so-and-so state, right? So you don't have individual information, and their generosity score is 100. So you get a generosity.
Repeat that one more time.
Yeah. So we'll go out to 100 members and ask for $55. They can say yes or no, each individual.
Because that's what you negotiated down to, $5,500. Okay.
Yeah. So we've negotiated that price down. So we're making sure that for the community, the bill is as low as possible.
And you negotiated from $18K to $5,500.
To $6K.
All right. And I want to talk about how y'all do that. Yeah. That's also interesting.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely. And you get a generosity score based on your track record of giving. So now if that member, when they've been asked if they have contributed, they'll have a score of 100.
Okay.
And now you see this member's been a generous member of the community. And that's where almost, for thousands of years as humans, if we got sick, if something happened to us, the community rallied for support. And in our current, really dehumanized healthcare system and really more sick care system, you don't have that support from that community to, not only navigate and deal with that healthcare issue, but also helping to pay for it. So you can think about it like a proactive GoFundMe, right? So GoFundMe is crowdfunding for whatever you need in your life, right? But actually 1 in 3 GoFundMes are for medical expenses.
Yeah, I noticed that. Yes.
$650 million a year is being raised on GoFundMe.
Yeah, and then GoFundMe doesn't negotiate with the doctor the cost of the procedure, so you're just stuck with a monster bill, whereas with you guys, you negotiate it. Okay.
Yeah, so we're getting that bill down, and only 12% of those GoFundMes actually get funded. And you got to go public with your sensitive healthcare issue. Versus Crowd Health, so far, all of the bills have been crowdfunded. And so the Crowd Health started about 1.5 years ago. We had members join last year, and that's the case so far. So while we're not insurance, it's not a guarantee. So far, the community's come together and been generous to support each other.
How many members do you have in your network?
We've got a couple thousand members right now in Crowd Health across all 50 states.
Or is it a 50-state? So it's an Austin company, right?
Yep, Austin-based. Our founder, Andy Schoonover, started the company about 1.5 years ago.
Okay.
And so we're here in Austin, actually working out of the Bitcoin Commons.
I like that.
And very
I just
much
created
integrated.
An Unchained account actually with those guys.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so I got a multi-sig. I actually just got paid by Kyle today through my multi-sig. I used Zaprite for the first time.
Nice.
And
Jon and Zaprite. Yeah.
Dude, John's the man. Yeah. I created a Proton Mail account before doing that because I'm not even trying to have any of that out there, right? So
yeah,
I created a Proton
Amazing.
Mail account and sent Kyle an email with the sent him an invoice with the multi-sig.
Mm-hmm.
Talked to Kyle on the phone before we did it. I was like, hey, we're gonna talk and make sure this works. Everything is correct. It was no problem. So easy.
That's amazing.
It was it got done so easily. Like, it was crazy how easy this got done.
Yeah, and we can remove a lot of the friction from the transaction perspective too. Tapping into Bitcoin, and we're both wearing these shirts here. I love that you're rocking the Bitcoin fixes health.
I was gonna rock my Pleb Lab shirt for this, but then I realized, oh no, I gotta get this, and I saw it right in my closet, and so.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. So Bitcoin, and really healthcare on a Bitcoin standard, in the tools and the way that Crowd Health is set up, it really flips the incentives around because now we're merging the payer and the consumer of healthcare into one. So now we're active consumers finding, negotiating a better price. And with Bitcoin now, the Bitcoin piece is that you're holding this money in this crowdfund account, right? That's used to help pay for other people's health expenses. If you choose to join the Bitcoin crowd, 75% of what you're holding will be held in Bitcoin. So we partnered with Swan Bitcoin in order to do that, and that went live this month actually.
Wow. Okay.
So that 25% is held in fiat to help after 4 months.
Is Swan sponsoring you guys or giving you guys any extra money, or do you just have a partnership where you just put it in their account?
Yep, a partnership, and we're closely with them for the tech integration to make that a seamless experience.
Okay, but Swan isn't like sponsoring this or paying for any of this.
They're a custodian. So essentially the Bitcoin will be custodied for now at Swan. So you'll have an account at Swan. After 4 months, 3/4 of what you're putting in each month will be held in Bitcoin. And now you're stacking sats instead of paying health insurance premium. So even if you get with the subsidies, it's only $80 premium a month. The way insurance works, you're never getting that money back, right? With Crowd Health, that's your money. That's your Bitcoin. If Bitcoin appreciates at 5x's from here, we hit that 100K.
So if I leave Crowd Health, I could take the money. I could take all the money that I pooled in, like the $175 a month, right? Because you keep 35, right? And so, like, if I decide to leave after like 5 years, right? I get those $100, those $140 a month back that I put in.
Yeah, minus the subscription fee, and then there's a small closing fee at the end, just on the back end to close those accounts. But otherwise, that's all your money.
Because those $100, that money is really there. That money is there to subsidize other people's stuff. So whatever is left over, I can take back home with me.
Yep, and that's where it depends on kind of what how members' healthcare experiences go. But what we've seen so far is, for every $100 that people put into crowdfunding, about 30 is being spent on medical care. And now that number can change. But again, we're not insurance, and it's not a pool. Those are individuals that are holding that money in their account and voluntarily contributing. Okay. So that's really the flip of the paradigm.
So John, here's another question though. What if I just can't afford, what if I get a message like that where you're like, hey, somebody tore their ACL, somebody broke their arm, and we need $100 from 100 members. but I can only give 50. Can I just say I'm giving 50? Like, how does that work?
Yeah,
How does that affect my generosity score?
Yep. So if you gave 50 out of the 100, then your generosity score would go down from 100 to 50. So it's essentially the amount that you've given divided by over the amount that you've been asked for. So if you give 100 out of the 100, your generosity score will be 100.
And so the reason that you do the $100 thing is so that this way, people don't feel like they're being spammed with donations.
Yeah, and you might get one once a month. It kind of depends on as the flow of health events go on, and as we're working that on the operations side.
I was listening to that Andy talk on like the Lightning Network right before, and someone asked him, "Why don't you just ask for $2 or $3 because it's easier to stomach?" And then he said, "Well, because then people are just going to feel like they're being spammed. They're going to turn it off. Whereas if you're just being asked for $100 donation, you're only going to get asked once per month." And you will still have like $30 left in that account that you can just keep for yourself anyway. So you can see the value and the benefit. And because you have a generosity score and people see that and it's public, you're going to create a situation and a dynamic where more people will want to help you because they'll see that you're willing to help and you're a part of that community. And this is it's mutual aid.
Yeah, it's aligning. It's aligning
mutual
incentives
aid without the communism.
Yeah, it's voluntary. It's very it's like a kibbutz. It's a community.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like a kibbutz. It's people coming together to support each other. And now we don't have to be physically in the same place, and that's part of the beauty of Crowd Health too, because we don't have networks. It's not based on specific location. You can go to any facility. Again, and we'll help you navigate. You need to find a specialist. We'll go find that specialist and say, what's the price, right? And now we're getting that fair price. And why will hospitals and doctors give better pricing to an individual? How do we have more negotiating power than United Healthcare? Well, United and the other big companies are pre-contracting all those rates. So even, for example, you go to the ER, if your anesthesiologist is technically out of network, they have a set price. Your insurance plan does already. You might be $10,000 for that 15-minute visit, and you're out of luck. There's nothing you can do. That's an already contracted price. Hospitals are only getting 9 cents on the dollar for all the debt that they're chasing. So they know that they don't want to put you in bankruptcy. They don't want to put you in debt. A lot of hospitals are nonprofits. They're really mission driven, and they'll even give out charity care. Aren't
hospitals all corporate? Like every hospital I see is a corporate hospital.
That's been more of the trend, and there are for-profit hospitals and there are non-for-profit hospitals. But really most of them, and a lot of my experience is working in strategy consulting for hospitals and health systems. I mean, they're being run like businesses, right? And they want to improve the consumer experience, and they want to, be there for their community. But the way the structure's set up is that they're getting squeezed. Hospitals are really getting squeezed. So they're more than happy to talk to a patient and now get paid in cash on the day of the service. They don't have to wait 60 to 90 days to get paid by their insurance company for that service they provided.
So if I'm going to get a checkup, right, and I have this Crowd Health, do I negotiate what I want to pay before I go for my checkup? Do I negotiate when I'm at the spot? Like, how does that work for me as the patient?
Yeah, so we'll talk to that provider ahead of time and let you know, hey, it's going to be, and I did this recently, it's $150.
So I call the doctor, hey, I want a checkup. I want to get a routine checkup. This is my provider. My provider is Crowd Health.
You don't even need to say that.
Okay,
you basically say I'm self-pay. Like you can,
okay.
you don't need to.
Self-paid. All right. Yep. So then what do I do after I tell them that? Before I even go in?
So then they'll say, here's our price. You go in and get the service. You'd pay for that, checkup visit up front, and you'll submit your bill on our app to Crowd Health. We'll go out and crowdfund in the community.
Okay, but you said that you can negotiate a lower bill anyway.
Yeah. And so that's more for the checkups. And actually, from a preventative perspective, you get an annual wellness visit each year as a Crowd Health member, where the $500 commitment is waived. So essentially, you can go in and get your visit, get your labs, and we're getting labs for, I think my labs were $70 instead of $800 that normally would have been the charge for the full panel that I got personally. But for those bigger procedures that are planned, say you do have your ACL surgery coming up, we'll crowdfund in advance of the surgery.
Okay, what if I have to go to the ER?
EMTALA is a law that came into effect in the early 80s. They have to see you, and you're getting those bills a month, 2 months, 3 months after the fact. So we'll go through and check those bills to make sure they're not wrong. And actually 80% of ER bills, of all medical bills, are just incorrect.
Okay.
So we'll check that bill, and then we'll facilitate crowdfunding for, that negotiated amount.
So
So you don't pay ER
just
visits
to
up front.
backtrack, because I want to.
Yeah, it's a lot.
I'm talking to you like I'm 6 years old, because that's how I feel right now with this.
Good.
All right.
It's a lot.
So, God forbid, fall off a roof, break my leg. Got to go to the ER. I'm in the hospital. I get discharged from the hospital. Once I get the bill, I send the bill to you, and then you negotiate the bill with the hospital?
Yeah. And ideally, you'll let us know, you'll let our care advocate know as soon as possible when that emergency is coming up. So you go get the care you need. But then for that post-op or PT or anything you need follow-up, you'll continue to submit bills towards that health event. So that's all considered one health event.
Okay. How long have you guys been around for?
The company started about a year and a half ago,
Okay.
and members started joining last October.
And how has membership been these past few months? Have you noticed an increase or a decrease, or how have the numbers been looking? Because I don't want to, for me to sacrifice a guaranteed healthcare system for something like this is something, that's a very serious thing. So you want to know if you're sacrificing into something that's going to be like long-term worthwhile, or something that's going to actually be tangible and feasible, and actually have solvency too in today's day and age with all these companies going under and liquidity and all that stuff. So
and absolutely fair questions. But what's interesting is in there you said that the traditional system's guaranteed, and I'd like people to think and understand that it actually isn't guaranteed. And in fact, there's 250,000 families going bankrupt every year from medical care that had health insurance. So just because you have insurance doesn't guarantee you from going into debt from medical care. And 1 in 3 Americans actually, unfortunately, has medical debt as it's become a larger and larger part of the budget, right? 250% increase in deductibles in the last couple decades. So as you've seen those prices and premiums go up, people are wanting to ditch the system, right? And try something different. And for Crowd Health, we're attracting those individuals that are also fed up with the system and see that they can, with their feet or with themselves and their family, there's another way to do this. And there's a lot of factors that actually, go into our health that don't include direct medical care, pharmaceuticals, and so on, right? And you've had conversations with, Cole Bolton and K&C Cattle and what Texas Slim is doing in the beef initiative. There's what we eat and what we consume ends up, leading to the healthcare that we need down the road. And there's a lot that we can do to take care of our bodies and take control of our health. And we're really where we've seen a lot of the growth, and what attracted me to Crowd Health to join earlier this year was the Bitcoin piece. And we have a lot of Bitcoiners that are finding Crowd Health and realizing that, you don't need a bank anymore, right? And today is actually we're in the hat for Halloween. It's also White Paper Day, right?
I know, it's White Paper Day, 14th anniversary.
Yeah, 14th anniversary of White Paper Day. And now
I'm wearing this mask also, not only because it's Halloween, but because we're talking about healthcare, and I'm still a little worried about COVID and a new variant popping out. So the mask is really to protect you, John. And
I appreciate that.
And it's about science.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, the last couple years, you've seen, a lot of our traditional institutions being challenged, and seeing that there's another way to do this. So now, instead of throwing in premiums each month and hoping, that the 1 in 200 chance that something serious happens to you, and that you're covered, that's really a high time preference mindset, right? Versus Bitcoin, a low time preference mindset. Now our members are holding Bitcoin, and we're taking that value out of the system that's going to all these middlemen, right? There's 25% of the cost in healthcare is administrative costs, and half of that's waste. And $4 trillion a year is being spent on healthcare in this country. It's 20% of the economy. So now if we can start sucking some of that, value, or really what's getting lost in the system out there, and back into individuals' pockets, saving for the long term for those rainy days, if you do have a healthcare need, that's where I think it starts to click in Bitcoiners' minds.
Are you worried about the government or anybody coming after you because what you're doing seems like it could actually pose a direct threat to legacy healthcare?
Yeah, I mean, I think what we're doing is very different than the traditional and legacy health insurance system. It's Bitcoin is very different than the traditional finance and banking system. So we're very clear and upfront. This isn't insurance, and we're operating in this crowdfunding model that's voluntary, that people are choosing to be a part of this community, and we're seeing growth. We're seeing that when you look at the expense, for an individual, and what even companies are paying $8,000 a year to insure an individual, $22,000 a year for premiums just for a family of 4. And then you add on top of that the thousands of dollars deductible and co-pays and narrow network. As you said, it's the explanation of benefits. That's a couple hundred pages is just overwhelming, right?
I'm
How
not
do you
reading
even
that
make your
shit,
choice?
Yeah, it's impossible. It's like you have to just literally flip a coin or do eeny, meeny, miny, mo or something when it comes to this. But, everything that we're talking about when it comes to healthcare is literally why people are advocating for communism.
Yeah, and if you hear, one payer system or a government, system, that would be, that is an option. You can look at other countries, and I've studied other countries' health systems around the world through a master's program that was really enlightening. And it was seeing, okay, there are other ways to do this, but there's always trade-offs. You could go to Canada and you say it's, national socialized medicine, but that's coming out of their paycheck, right? That's coming in the form of taxes.
55% of what you make goes away for a service that you might never even need.
Yeah. And then now if you need that ACL surgery, good luck waiting a year, to get your name on the wait list. So what we're bringing is really free market economics into healthcare through pricing, through, really supply and demand to say, this is, just like for your car, if you're going to get an oil change or you're going to buy a new car, you're going to know what the price is, right?
Yeah. You should know for healthcare.
Exactly.
And you should also make it easier to create insurance companies. It seems like it's pretty hard to create an insurance company in general.
It is. And you look at the startups in this space, whether it's Oscar or even, recently you had Bright Health pull out of a lot of the individual marketplaces because it is a challenge to start up insurance. And so very clearly, Crowd Health isn't insurance, but we can leverage really the free market. And nationally, the mandate for having health insurance was struck down. So there are still 5 states where you will get penalized for not having health insurance.
Which is ridiculous because not only are you getting ripped off by your healthcare provider, but now we're going to fine you for not using the healthcare provider that doesn't work that's ripping you off.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and then you see a lot of people, moving down to Texas or Florida to states that, have more freedom and openness and other models of care. We tie in really greatly with direct primary care services where members are paying cash monthly to have access to a physician. And we provide other tools to our members, such as 24/7 access to telemedicine. So primary care, urgent care,
what about
talk therapy.
physical therapy? Like if you have to go to physical therapy and do stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because I remember once I fractured my tibia and luckily I had I had all that stuff. But the bill without that would have been $37,000, and because it was an ER visit, I paid like a grand, and that was it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So for PT visits, those are usually associated with a health event. So you'll again pay the first $500 of that health event,
and then you pay for the surgeries, everything, and then the PT also comes with it.
Yeah. So PT, you can continue submitting your bills to our app, and that'll get added to what's being requested from crowdfunding. And actually, a lot of PTs have a struggle because insurance might say, you have 8 visits, right? But this person might need 12 visits. They might need 16 visits. And then the PT is forced to, stop their care. For Crowd Health, we're going to rely on the expertise of the providers and say, okay, they need 12. Great. Go get your 12 visits and, submit that for crowdfunding. You're again going to pay the first $500 of the health event. And above that, we'll submit that. We want you to be well. We want you to, proactively take care of your health instead of, more of this reactive sick care system that we have today.
I love it. I really like that a lot. How do you negotiate with the doctors though? Because you're a small company. Why would they even want to listen to you?
A lot of it has to do with the revenue cycle management of these hospitals. So their margins are very thin. And think about this. If you're a pedicab, what if your driver or the person you're driving said, great, thanks for that ride. I'm going to pay you in 2 or 3 months. What would you say?
That would be a big problem.
That's what's happening in the healthcare system. So they're providing services and not getting paid for 2 or 3 months, and then having to work through those claims and correct those claims and go through this whole back and forth with the insurance company.
Of paperwork and try to bankrupt people. And, also if you're an illegal immigrant or you're on welfare, you have all these other benefits, your hands are kind of tied when it comes to that. If you just don't have any money or assets, even if they do go through these procedures, they're still going to be operating at a loss, bankrupting people who don't care anyway.
Yeah. And, so now you could say, I'll take, you could pay half off if all of a sudden, if you'll pay in cash, right? Or you can get 60% off the bill if you'll pay me in cash today for this service. And we determine what is a fair, use, what is that fair value exchange for my time? And that's where I think Bitcoin can really help disrupt the healthcare industry too, because the electronic medical record systems, those complicated billing systems, take 6 to 10% of every transaction. So you think the Visas and MasterCards of the world are bad at 2 or 3%. This is even higher amount of that value exchange is going to a third party to process the claim and the payment.
Wow.
With Lightning, we could send that value at the speed of light and for a fraction, for a few sats, right? A fraction of a penny. So that's value back to the provider. So with Crowd Health, we'd love to help, and we're partnering with different companies in the Bitcoin space to want to orange pill more doctors, right? And say, hey, you can get this value today,
and we're giving
final settlement,
and we can pay you in Bitcoin, and you could are you able to even talk to the hospital providers and saying we're going to give you Bitcoin? Because aren't there like aren't there kind of like laws and regulations and stuff that these hospitals can't just like start setting up wallets and taking Bitcoin payments?
So they'll still, Bitcoin is still treated, as an asset, and any capital gains, if you send it, from an accounting perspective, those are taxable. So today it isn't treated as, full currency. I think that could change, in the future, and that'll reduce some of the friction from an accounting perspective. But there are hospitals and doctors, you even go back, 8-10 years, who have been accepting Bitcoin, whether that's the Surgery Center of Oklahoma, who are providing a whole sheet of prices and say, this is our price. You can pay in Bitcoin, you can pay in dollars, and this is what it's going to cost. So it's awesome to see.
Do you guys provide us? Sorry if I'm interrupting.
No, go ahead.
Do you guys provide people with a list of crowd health friendly doctors when you go? Like if I sign up for this, right? Because I'm not going to sign up until like January, which is when my thing expires. But if I sign up for this in January, and I live in Johnson City right now, but I work in Austin, are you going to provide me with a list of crowd health friendly providers that you have worked with in that area?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can go on the app and go through our find a doc process, and we'll show you here are the docs in your area who a lot of them that we've worked with, or these are independent docs that have a fair price. We'll do that work on your behalf as well to say, here are your options. Now go get the care that you need. But have a list, and providers love it, right? So we've even, in the story of the ER visit with the boating accident, the doctors who worked with our member, the member had such a good experience and told the doctors about it, they actually joined Crowd Health as providers and now as members themselves and for their family. So we've got I think almost 100 providers, whether they're doctors, nurses, therapists,
this would be really
others in this group.
This would be really good for our entire pedicab industry.
100%.
This would be excellent. I don't have Facebook, but there's a Facebook group called Pedicabbies, and I'm gonna when this episode comes out, I'm gonna share it with somebody to post on Pedicabbies, because I think this is actually super informative for a lot of people, and a lot of us do not have healthcare.
Yeah, it's overlooked from the system.
A lot of us are not even taking advantage of the Obamacare bullshit stuff they have, right? But like, it's something that I think everyone should have. We have a job that we do put our bodies at risk. We risk getting hurt from accidents, from people attacking us, from God knows what, right? Like, and it's a fun job. I love it. And for the most part, it's not like super difficult, but there are risks that we take doing this job that other people do not take. And this is a service that everybody should be able to have. And we also, I think I talked about this with you, and I know you can't do anything about it now, but we're having some insurance problems ourselves. Because I think we had 2 of the 3 companies that insured us pulled out because they were worried about liability.
Oh, wow.
And this could put an actual threat in terms of our ability to like still continue operating. And so I was just wondering if there's anything you guys can do, or if there are any resources that or any type of alternative ways for us to have multiple insurance options so that we don't have to be price gouged by one company.
Yeah, and we welcome all pedicabbers into Crowd Health, because you're part of the gig economy, and we're looking to partner with other companies that are platforms for gig economy workers, because you're right, it's overlooked part of the system. You're an independent entrepreneur, you're owner of your business, you're hustling throughout the day, and the way that our employer-based insurance, again, legacy, it doesn't fit, right? Or you're a digital nomad, or you're moving around throughout the country, and you're not going to be in one place for a while. And this narrow network of docs, how many people even our age have, would you say you have a doctor, that you go to consistently? Like, right? Probably not. But if something comes up, you want to know that you'll have the support and access to medical care and support from a payment perspective. So I think that our model is great for pedicabbers to become members of Crowd Health and ditch the insurance. Don't go, ditch, the traditional model of Obamacare, and now we have this other way.
Yeah, I hope you have flyers and stuff here, or something that we can do to talk to. I'll give you my boss's phone number so you could talk about this, and we could even share this. We have a WhatsApp. Actually, there's a WhatsApp chat that I'm in with like the people in our company, and I'll definitely share this episode. I'll share information about you and what we're doing from a health standpoint, because this is like pretty invaluable stuff.
Yeah, that would be awesome. We've got another promo as well.
I hope it
Gig
actually
Crowd.
helps.
Yeah, use Gig Crowd, sign up, or reach out to me. We've got the channels are open. We're trying to grow. We're trying to support more people out there that are overlooked, and building this parallel system for health and getting access to the tools you need, whether it's discount drugs, discount labs, telemedicine, getting that navigation support as well. Just so many pieces of it. And then also from a Bitcoin perspective, the company actually started without Bitcoin, but because members are holding this value in the crowdfund account, Andy was orange pilled by Jimmy Song, actually another Austinite here, and said, hey, let's hold this value in Bitcoin. We're saving for future healthcare needs. We have this decentralized money. Now we have a decentralized group of individuals who are all about the country. And, eventually there's no reason why this can't work throughout the world as well, right? We're not insurance.
Yeah.
Like, people want to support each other. It's a natural inclination as a human to be there.
Okay, and you could take money out of that account whenever you want, right? Like, let's say like right now, I spent a year on Crowd Health, right? And I put in, well, let's say I put in $1.75 a month, right? With 100. So what is 100 and 175? Like the weighted average, like 135 a month. And you get I basically I put in like $100 a month of my own Bitcoin on a weighted average for a year, right? And then I spend about, because that's probably what it winds up becoming with all that stuff. So
yep.
With all that, and then you spend about like $70 of it on helping people is what it averages out to
each month, even a little bit less. Yeah, even less than
Let's
that.
say $70.
Yeah.
Okay, so now you have $300 that you accumulated in 1 year while Bitcoin was kind of at these prices. Hypothetically, let's say Bitcoin goes to 100x. Now you have $1,500. So now your 300 just turned to $1,500.
Yeah. So while you're in Crowd Health, you can't pull the money out. But if you leave Crowd Health, you can pull it out. And if you say get $5,000, in your Swan account, and you've got $5,000 worth of Bitcoin, you've been accumulating for your family or for yourself and stacking sats, and the community's taking care of each other, you can start to pull some sats, off the platform while you're still in Crowd Health.
That's what I'm
so we haven't gotten there yet from just a timing perspective, and also, where Bitcoin pricing level is at.
If I'm still making those payments, but all of a sudden now, like, the value of the Bitcoin has, 5x'd, I could put I could pull off the profits that I'm making.
Yep.
From there, have it in a separate wallet, or use those sats for something else, and still make those payments and be part of that network, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And now you haven't been paying premiums that you literally never get back. And that's the trade-off, right? For an individual, you're exactly right. You can save. That's your money. That's your Bitcoin. And now we have this tool, right, and other tools to take advantage of, in building a new system, a new way of operating for ourselves, and aligning incentives in a way that the current system just doesn't allow for, whether it's, people from a moral hazard perspective, you think someone else, insurance is paying for this. Well, really that is someone else. So you're dumping your health debt, onto other people. So for Crowd Health, it's very much, take responsibility for your health. We'll give you all the tools that you need, and now be a part of a community that will support each other in those big bills, so that, none of our members are one of those people going into debt, right? And we'll do anything, whether it's bringing attorneys, you can fight. There's a great book, Never Pay the First Bill, Marshall Allen, that I recommend, to read, and just show that there are a lot of ways that we can, help navigate. And then as a pedicabber, you have the support of Crowd Health to navigate any healthcare issue. You could also literally
hit up the entire MMA and Jiu-Jitsu community that would love this stuff.
Yeah. And if you have any connections, intros there, would love to chat with them. One of my best friends is actually into Jiu-Jitsu, has been down in Brazil and for the last few years. And his girlfriend actually just joined because she's came from Brazil, and again, the traditional system doesn't serve her.
Work.
And for Crowd Health, you have a U.S. address, come and join, right? Yeah. So right now, as frictionless as possible, we're welcoming members into the community, and it's fun. It's fun for me. My background in working in healthcare the last few years, and even most recently in medical supplies, and going down the Bitcoin rabbit hole and really wanting to work on Bitcoin adoption. Went to El Salvador last year. I don't know if you're coming down for adopting Bitcoin.
Well, I need to figure out a way to, if I can afford it, and I got to get my passport updated. When is it?
All right, it's in a few weeks, so it's coming up soon. But at some
I'm
point,
probably not gonna be able to do it for this one. Probably next year I'll do it.
Yeah. Get down to El Zonte. Go to Bitcoin Akasi. In Muscle Bay in South Africa. These are some of the communities I've visited that it's just so inspiring to see communities building this circular economy using Bitcoin. You don't need credit cards. You don't need these legacy systems. And now in the healthcare side, we can disrupt healthcare, and it's such a big industry. And again, so confusing.
Everything.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And you have a lot like the mainstream news likes to really eat up El Salvador because they bought Bitcoin, unfortunately, while it was going down from the top. They're buying dips at the top, and they're talking about how much money they've lost on that. But what they fail to mention is that tourism has increased by 300%. Crime has gone down dramatically.
Yep.
You're going to see a influx of European businessmen moving to El Salvador once you get gas and energy shortages and all types of problems that are going to start occurring in the winter. And then you're going to really see a big game changer.
Yeah, and they're mining, using geothermal energy, right, from the volcano. And that's proof of work. And similarly for health, it takes work to take care of yourself and stay balanced. You're driving around Austin, and we actually hopped on a pedicab after ACL, and it was, super busy and fun. I know that was a busy weekend for you guys, I'm sure.
He accepted Bitcoin? Because I was telling people that all the time. And
no, he didn't, but that would be fun. I would love to do that.
I literally was telling people, I'm like, how much is it to go from ACL to downtown? And if you're going to Rainy from ACL at 9 o'clock with all that the craziness with supply and demand in the market, I'm like, yo, $200, baby. And they're like, I'm not paying that. I'm like, well, yo, listen, I'll give you, throw me $1.50 if you send Bitcoin. Throw me $1.20. And then I don't have Bitcoin. I don't have that. Or normally I'm for a mile, a ride that's a mile long or something, like $40. I'm like, well, that's expensive. I'm like, how about 30? And I'm like, well, if you send Bitcoin, I'll do 30. And they just
exactly.
Nobody knows what this stuff even it's kind of amazing how Austin's such a tech hub, but everyone here is so technologically and financially illiterate.
Yeah, I mean,
or they just don't want to share, and they just or they just don't want to share and just pretend like they don't have any.
Yeah, and I think it just shows you how early we are still. And I moved down to Austin with my wife down from Chicago, although we've been nomadic the last couple years, and it's fun to interact with other Bitcoiners here, but also welcoming others to the community. We have Bitcoin breakfast every other week down at Meteor, and other events going on at the Bitcoin Commons. We're working all the time, and in Austin Bitcoin Club and BitDevs. There's so many ways to learn.
Though, dude. They're too early, man.
Yeah, well, come down and hang out and chat, because I think that and it's cool. I'd be interested to hear your convos as you're driving around the city. Are you able to do some good orange pilling, or it takes some time?
Try to. I mean, I got my rap. I have these conspiracy theory rap songs. So I just play them for people. So we're just waking people up in a different standpoint. But once in a while, though, sometimes, once in a while you have good discussions with this stuff. But generally speaking, I know so little about this that it's difficult, because I also recognize how little I know when it comes to this asset. I just know the basics. I just understand the halving occurs every 4 years. Only 21 million can be mined. You need a majority consensus of node operators to validate a transaction, and you don't know who the node operators are, and your ability to validate or not validate is not dependent upon how much Bitcoin you had. It just has to do with everybody just operating the node. So it just seems like it's fair. And if you have this stuff in a hard asset, no one can take it unless you're giving phrases out, which you shouldn't do. Mm-hmm. And if you have a multi-sig, that's even more impossible.
Yeah.
So it just seems I never tell people, I'm not telling people, yo, buy Bitcoin, go do this, because you could lose half your money. You don't know what could happen, right? You could not be responsible. You might not have the responsibility to manage having full custody of your own finances. You just might not be able to. So you just, instead of saying that, you're like, hey man, you should learn about this. You should read the Bitcoin Standard. You should understand sound money, or maybe put 1% of whatever you have that you can afford to kind of let ride forever, or not, or lose, or not spend on shoes or fancy dinners. Just put in some Bitcoin for 5 years and let it sit there. Your risk reward ratio is a lot higher. And when Bitcoin was 50K, I wasn't telling people to buy Bitcoin when it was 50K.
Yeah,
I was hey man, you should learn about it. Hey, you should buy, but if you lose half your money, don't get upset, because just keep slowly accumulating more, because this is how this asset performs. And I wouldn't, just understand what you're doing when you get it, right? But I never walk around shilling stuff, right?
I think people need to ask the questions for themselves and think critically. And, when you go down and ask yourself, what is money? What is the purpose of money, and how did it evolve? And when you read the Bitcoin Standard, or you read Layered Money, or other, the Seventh Property, other tools to understand what money is and how it's been used, starting as store value into medium of exchange and now into unit of account. This is money. It's a tool for us to exchange value, and it's a way for us to have now censorship resistant money, really that seventh property of money that, can't be messed with. We know what the supply is. It's going to be 21 million. With the fiat, and people think in the short term it's volatile. Well, that's compared to fiat dollar, and all the 40% of all dollars that were ever created were created in the last couple years.
It was 80%.
Right? Yeah,
80%, not 40.
Now we're growing even more. So, that's going to continue as the money becomes more and more abundant. Everything else becomes scarce. If money is scarce, everything else becomes abundant, and we can actually get rewarded for that technological advances and innovations that we're doing.
Things become abundant, but a lot of people have jobs and livelihoods and streams of income that are based upon things that have absolutely no value. So there's going to be a lot of also pain as you transition too. Like the content creator on TikTok is going to be the content creator on TikTok, or the OnlyFans model, is going to be in a world of hurt. You have
to be able to create value.
The bureaucrat or the adjuster at United Healthcare, or the gender studies professor, or the Middle Eastern philosophy professor in the 1870s. That guy's going to be in a lot of trouble.
There'll definitely be some reshuffling for sure.
There are going to be a lot of jobs that are just going to have no values. Even people who work in museums and stuff, or work in art galleries or stuff like that, or there's going to be so many a lot of government jobs are not going to exist anymore, and anybody who's on a government payroll is going to really they don't want that stuff, because they're not going to have that stability anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's where it's important to find what you want to do, what you can do, and to provide value, create value in this world. And I think that is a challenge, day in, day out for individuals, or we're so, stuck in the rat race or the hamster wheel that you can't take time to really step back and, think about these things.
And it's a hamster wheel to produce nothing. It really is. It's a hamster wheel to produce nothing.
And it's high time preference, right? It's thinking it's consumption. It's, buy more of this today. Well, with Bitcoin, now all of a sudden you're stacking sats and you're preserving your future purchasing power. You change your thinking. It changes your habits. It changes you in, I think, a really profound way. And in a similar way, ditching health insurance, it changed me. I'm delightfully, and Andy always says this, I'm delightfully uninsured. You don't need insurance, right? Yeah. You don't need this middleman. Just like you don't need a bank, we can transact value. Now we have all these tools to, really take care of ourselves in another way that also can change you. That also can change, the way you're operating.
So when things are too with single payer systems and all that stuff, when you become too dependent upon centralized entities, you're giving them way too much power over your day-to-day lives.
Mm-hmm.
And so I crashed a Bernie Sanders rally.
Okay, how was that?
I mean, it was fun. I don't hate the people that are voting for him. I understand why this has so much traction. I voted for him twice in 2016 in primary and 2020 in primaries, because he was making more sense than everybody else that was running when it came to this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Just the solutions were terrible. The solutions just obviously don't work when you learn more about it. But I was with my friend Alex Rosen, and he went off and said the standard right wing stuff you have 3 houses, you're a fraud, and this and that. And I just went in there, and I said, hey, everybody needs healthcare, but only if you take a vaccine by Pfizer or Moderna, or hey guys, we have to tax the rich so that we can build more prisons and send money to Ukraine. And that was kind of the gist of what I was saying. And I'm hey, well, thank you for supporting lockdowns, because now Amazon has enough money to pay their employees a livable wage. So I mean,
it's just a lot of platitudes versus, work, show the work. There's a lot out there that we can do, take it into your own hands and decentralize it in a way that, you don't need to rely on someone else or any handouts to get the services that you need. What these supporters
are saying, they're not wrong about how the healthcare system is broken. And they're not wrong about how we should end corporate healthcare and stop that. It's just that their solution of a single payer system through a government entity where a bunch of these people were friends with Jeffrey Epstein telling you what to do and giving you health advice is probably not the best idea. And, part of it, part of what you're making, you're listening to those people. You're just coming up with a better solution that they will actually benefit from versus getting sick from.
Yeah. And it's it's tools. It's ways to access and pay for medical care and take it, be proactive in your health and save for the future and go to any doctor and, recreate that patient doctor relationship too, that I think is so missing in the system. Doctors have 7 minutes to talk to you because it's a fee for service model and it's hyper efficient. That's actually burning out, more and more docs, or you have a shortage of doctors now, especially in rural areas. So I think our tools as well fit really well with farmers and ranchers and others out there and other entrepreneurs. I go to the farmers markets here and they're super fun in Austin to check them out. And, everyone there, you're creating value, whether it's, selling beef or flowers or, whatever, or goat milk soap, right? Like there's so much creativity out there, and everyone has to do something for their health, right? We're all human. We're all evolving in different ways. But so much of the top-down information even has just been, whether it's the food pyramid or what you're learning as a kid, like it's so wrong. It doesn't really teach you about your body.
It's all created by like literal chemical companies. It's high time preference money, and it's high time preference nutrition.
Yeah. So we can question that and say, what is going to fuel me well? Well, maybe a meat, high protein dense diet and getting beef, shaking your rancher's hand and getting regeneratively farmed
and also
beef.
Eating real vegetables and working out and sleeping enough and doing all that stuff and having healthy relationships with people. And, look, I think if you surround yourself with like loving, positive people, you're less likely to drink alcohol. And the less alcohol you drink, the healthier you get. So literally, like, surrounding yourself with love is good for your health.
Yeah, and we see just a deterioration of health in the country. I mean, life expectancy went down 2 years. 6 in 10 have a chronic condition.
Or going back to like having some traditional values that are just not cool to talk about in the media. Because if you have those values, you're not getting wasted 3 times a week.
Yeah.
Because you got like your wife or you got your fiance or your long-term partner that you're with, and that's the only person you're with. And you have your energy harnessed, and you have like real community versus like, haven't got laid in like a month, and now you got to go out and try to find some chick that'll bang you, and you don't know what she has, and you got to probably drink a bunch of alcohol to like loosen yourself up to actually try to go do this. It's just a mess. Like, why would anybody want that? It's unhealthy.
No,
it's a high time.
Yeah, it's high time preference. No, yeah, and very high time preference, and so I think, shifting just the base layer of society, which really is the money. You have this in the commons: fix the money, fix the world. I truly believe in that, and I think as humans it takes time to kind of wrap our heads around that. We are still that early, 14 years now only since the white paper. Gold took thousands and thousands of years to monetize, right? But we know that, okay, gold is doubling in supply every 50, 60 years. And gold falls prey to centralized governments or banks, in order to trade.
They hodl all the gold and they'll issue the central bank digital currency, but they'll just have, but they don't care because they just have total control over you, right? And they're the largest stores of gold are central banks and governments, so they already have the wealth consolidated. They want the central bank digital currency because they have all the gold.
Yeah, and versus the trends in Bitcoin, you see it becoming more and more decentralized because as, especially those that might have been mining early on are now in the growth rate, it's gone up 200% year over year for the last decade in terms of fiat price, and that may not continue into the future at that level. But then as you evaluate a business and say, is it, more profitable for me to just hold Bitcoin or to invest in this business or and when those multiples come down and are normalized, now we have just better access, and then those Bitcoin getting continually distributed to those providing value in society.
And honestly, like the first trillionaire could be a guy like us. I mean, not me, but some guy like us could be the world's first trillionaire, and I would rather the world's first trillionaire be somebody who values these principles versus somebody like a Zuckerberg or a Jeff Bezos or something like that. I think it's better for society. It's better for growth. It's better for actual human freedom and positive ideas and positive values and positive growth to flourish. So I think that this is a really important thing. And then the more Bitcoin grows, the more you and I saw this podcast with Marty Benton and Angela McCardle, like if you change, like, act locally, like think globally, right? Or act locally so that you can deglobalize. That's how I look at it, right? So like, I'm in Blanco County now. Not that much. There's no money going in Blanco County city races. There's no money going into like the Blanco County judge.
Yeah.
So why can't like the Bitcoin community fill that void and start appointing Bitcoiners to be like the judges in Blanco County? Why don't you have a bunch of Bitcoiners on the city council in Blanco County, or in Johnson City, or in Blanco, or in Marble Falls? Like, why not? Like, the opportunity is there because there's no money in there. And like, this is what these like progressive socialists did. They put a bunch of Soros-funded DAs to do criminal justice, and if they can do it, why can't we do it? Because our values actually align with the people that we're representing.
Yeah,
there's a lot of opportunity in that.
More and more, in the political sphere, more Bitcoiners and others that are aligning with Bitcoin, and I think you have to call out and see, okay, make sure, there's a proof of work that those guys and women, women need to do to just say, hey, do we really understand Bitcoin, or am I kind of LARPing here? But I do think that that'll become more of a single voter, issue, because making adoption more seamless for businesses benefits the small business owner and pushes away from, all the centralizing forces that we've seen in our economy, and especially in healthcare. Even to the fact that United Healthcare is the 7th biggest company in the world by revenue. They own Optum, right? That's the pharmacy benefits manager. They're negotiating with themselves for the price of drugs that then you end up paying. Like, it doesn't make sense.
That's absolutely crazy. But anyway, we've talked for about an hour.
Yeah.
How do we get a hold of you? How do we get a hold of Crowd Health? How do you get more people involved with this?
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you having me on, Alex. My name is John. You can find me on Twitter at the Bitcoin Yogi.
Okay.
I see a lot of overlaps with Bitcoin and yoga, and got my yoga teacher training earlier this year.
Nice.
So I share a lot of thoughts there. And go to joincrowdhealth.com.
Okay.
And use the promo code HODL, HODL. You can get the first 6 months at $99 a month, or use Gig Crowd. We've got a lot of gig economy workers in Crowd Health. Welcome you to reach out, ask questions. John at joincrowdhealth.com if you want to shoot me an email. However you want to get in touch with me, would love that. Would love to connect. And reach out to Crowd Health if you have a business as well. You could be a great option, alternative instead of traditional insurance. Find us at the Bitcoin Commons, and I hope you'll stop by. Maybe you can give us a ride sometime, Alex.
I'm about it.
We're
Dude,
going
you got my
events.
number, so let me know. And I offer discounts if you send Bitcoin.
Okay.
All proceeds go to fight communism. So, John, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on. This was fun.